President Dwight D. Eisenhower agrees to help the British overthrow Mossadegh. Operation Ajax is born.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 coup d'etat.
With tanks moving toward the National Palace, Allende refused to resign, making good on his promise to defend Chile's democracy with his own life.
Napoleon had succeeded in his coup within a coup, setting himself up to ultimately become dictator, and all without a single life lost.
In his announcement tonight, the commander of Egypt's army said it's time to bring the country together.
For this list, we're looking at the most well-known and impactful takeovers by small state political and military groups. Our rank is based on how large these coups d'etat loom in history. We're excluding failed coups, as well as mass uprisings and revolutions that aren't usually considered coups. In a few hundred years, which of these do you think will be most remembered? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. Number 10. The 1980 Turkish coup d'etat.
In 1980, the army intervened after Turkey changed prime ministers 11 times and the country became unstable.
On July 15, 2016, an attempted coup rocked Turkey. The coup leaders cited the erosion of secularism and democratic freedoms under President Erdogan. The attempt failed, however, and Erdogan retaliated with a massive crackdown against dissent.
By daylight, smoke could be seen on the skyline of the capital, along with the sound of sporadic gunfire. Many of those who challenged President Erdogan for power were seen surrendering in Istanbul.
This was far from Turkey's first experience with coups. In the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, the government was overthrown thrice. During the most recent overthrow in 1980, a council of Turkish generals decided to take control as the country spiraled into chaos and violence. They arrested over 500,000 people and sentenced hundreds to death. The council controlled Turkey until 1982, whereupon coup leader Kenan Evren was elected president. Number 9. The 1971 Ugandan coup d'etat.
And I want to promise you, this will be a government of action, not of words.
The life of Ugandan General Idi Amin may have inspired the 2006 film The Last King of Scotland, but it was his military coup in 1971 that first set Amin front and center on the world stage. On January 25th of that year, Ugandan troops led by Amin blocked off airports and major roads in the nation while President Milton Obote was in Singapore attending a conference. Nicknamed the Butcher of Uganda, the general provoked international criticism during his reign, including accusations of violence, torture, and ruining Uganda's economy.
After establishing military rule in Uganda, Amin demonstrated eccentric and ruthless behavior.
Idi Amin was ousted in 1979 by exiled Ugandans and the Tanzania People's Defense Force, and fled to Saudi Arabia, where he remained until his death in 2003.
If the people of Uganda wants me, I will go back to Uganda, and I am sure I will contribute more for the people of Uganda.
Number 8. The 1952 Cuban coup d'etat. This coup may have been bloodless, but led to a brutal dictatorship and the Cuban Revolution. It was actually Fulgencio Batista's second coup, after he led the successful Sergeants' Revolt in 1933. Batista served one term as president in the early 40s, then decided to run again in 1952, but the polls didn't look good, so he just seized power instead. During his rule, Batista established a police state and close relationships with organized crime. Nonetheless, he enjoyed strong U.S. support. The coup prompted one Fidel Castro to lead an armed revolt, which in 1959 would hand him control of Cuba's destiny for over half a century. Number 7. The 1973 Chilean coup d'etat. Even as coups installed military governments throughout South America in the 60s, Chile clung to democratic rule for a time. However, President Salvador Allende's socialist policies and nationalization of the copper industry infuriated the U.S. On the advice of National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger, the Nixon administration waged economic warfare against Chile and plotted a coup.
They decided to stop him from being inaugurated as president of Chile. He hadn't even set foot in the Moneda Palace when Nixon and Kissinger just simply decided to change the fate of Chile.
As the country struggled with an economic depression and inflation, the CIA exacerbated unrest. On September 11, 1973, General Augusto Pinochet deposed Allende, installing himself as dictator.
With tanks moving toward the National Palace, Allende refused to resign, making good on his promise to defend Chile's democracy with his own life.
His bloody, decades-long reign saw the torture and execution of thousands of political dissidents, with declassified documents revealing that the CIA continued to play a supporting role.
Amnesty International says that Chile serves as a reminder that perpetrators of atrocities can still be held to account decades after the fact.
Number 6. The Spanish Coup of July 1936. While this coup became much larger and more drawn out than intended, it was ultimately successful, just managing to meet our criteria here. In July 1936, the right-wing nationalists staged a coup against the leftist government of the Second Spanish Republic. However, government forces managed to hold out through much of the country, resulting in a 3-year civil war. In the end, though, thanks to another coup within Republican forces, the nationalists were victorious, and leader Francisco Franco took power. The atrocities that Franco and the nationalists committed became known as the White Terror. Spain would only transition to democracy after Franco's death in 1975. Number 5. Egypt's 1952 coup d'etat. In July 1952, a group of Egyptian nationalists known as the Free Officers Movement seized power from British-backed King Farouk. Decrying the king as corrupt and beholden to foreign interests, they abolished the monarchy and made coup leader General Mohammed Naguib Egypt's prime minister and first president. Naguib himself was overthrown a few years later by Free Officer Gamal Abdel Nasser. The shift in power led to widespread reforms and eventually to the Suez Crisis, when the UK, France, and Israel invaded Egypt to regain control of the Suez Canal. It also inspired anti-colonial and anti-monarchical rebellions throughout the region. And this wasn't the last time Egypt's government was overthrown. In 2013, the Egyptian army removed President Mohamed Morsi, leading to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's authoritarian regime.
In his announcement tonight, the commander of Egypt's army said it's time to bring the country together.
Number 4. The 1948 Czechoslovak coup d'etat. The international tensions that defined the Cold War were just gaining steam by the winter of 1948. In Czechoslovakia, the government comprised a communist prime minister and a non-communist majority and president. That wasn't enough for the Communist Party. They purged non-communist members of the police force and had police and militias take over Prague. Fearing Soviet intervention, President Edvard Beneš agreed to form a new, communist-dominated government. The move became known as Victorious February and ushered in 4 decades of communist rule. It was a pivotal event in the drawing of the Iron Curtain across Europe and spurred on the establishment of the Marshall Plan and NATO. It wasn't until the nonviolent Velvet Revolution of 1989 that democracy was restored in that country. Number 3. The 1953 Iranian coup d'etat. Iran's history would have taken a very different course without this coup. In 1953, the US and UK orchestrated the overthrow of democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. The US referred to the operation as Operation Ajax, and the British as Operation Boot. Wrestling with Britain's control of Iranian oil reserves, Mossadegh decided to nationalize the country's oil industry.
Even worse, he nationalizes the profitable Anglo-Iranian oil company. The British are livid and withdraw their technicians in protest.
The crisis that followed saw Mossadegh face increasing pressure and fall back on emergency powers. With the help of the CIA and MI6, he was ousted by a faction of the Iranian Imperial Army.
3 days later, Mossadegh surrenders to Iranian police. He is tried for treason and placed under house arrest for 3 years.
This eventually led to Shah Reza Pahlavi taking on a larger leadership role, which culminated in the Shah's own overthrow by Ayatollah Khomeini during the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Number 2. The Coup of 18 Brumaire. A committee of 5 ruling members governed France from 1795 to 1799, until it was overthrown by a young military genius known as General Napoleon Bonaparte.
Whatever the result is, it will be perfectly legal.
The deputies have dissolved the Directory. In its place, they have created an Executive Consular Commission.
This act effectively ended the French Revolution and was committed without bloodshed by Napoleon on November 9, 1799, or 18 Brumaire, year 8 in the French Republican calendar. Napoleon established a French consulate, serving as first consul until naming himself emperor in 1804.
Napoleon had succeeded in his coup within a coup, setting himself up to ultimately become dictator. and all without a single life lost.
He would rule France until 1814, when he abdicated the throne and was exiled after an unsuccessful military campaign into Russia. Bonaparte would briefly return a year later, but was exiled again after his infamous defeat at Waterloo. Before we reveal our top pick, here are a few honorable, or sometimes dishonorable mentions. The October Revolution, also known as the Bolshevik Coup. Some call it a coup, others a revolution, but we're squeezing it in for leading to the creation of the Soviet Union. The 1941 Iraqi coup d'etat. This Nazi-backed coup ousted the pro-British regime and led to the Anglo-Iraqi War. The 1969 Libyan coup d'etat. After overthrowing King Idris I, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi ruled Libya until 2011. The 1979 Salvadoran coup d'etat. This military takeover led to the 12-year-long Salvadoran Civil War. The 2017 Zimbabwean coup d'etat. Robert Mugabe's long rule ended when the army arrested him and forced him to resign.
In the televised address, an army spokesman denied that a coup was underway, saying it was targeting what it called criminals around the world's oldest leader. The spokesman blamed Mugabe's aides for causing, quote, social and economic suffering.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Ides of March. Et tu, Brute? These words from Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar have become synonymous with betrayal. Roman general Gaius Julius Caesar seized power in October 49 BC. But a coup on the Ides of March in 44 BC cut his rule short.
Though his reign lasted only 4 years, his killers could not turn back the tide of history.
Roman senators saw Caesar as disrespectful and overreaching, and stabbed him to death at a Senate meeting. The conspirators included Caesar's former friend and possibly biological son, Marcus Brutus.
They drove their blades home with blow after blow.
The assassination plunged Rome into civil war, as Caesar's ally Mark Antony and heir Octavian sought to avenge his death.
He was my friend, faithful and just to me.
They succeeded, but later turned on each other. When all the dust settled, Mark Antony and his lover Cleopatra were dead. Octavian was Rome's first emperor, and the Roman Republic was finished. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.